Hey, what is up now? This is Cam, and I wanted to make this video for my YouTube channel, my music channel. I'll talk to you guys about what's on my mind today. I'm telling you, I can make a video every single day talking about music. I want to start putting more videos on this channel, and I was just thinking, it doesn't always have to be me playing a song, you know. You don't get the full picture of me when I'm just playing songs. I mean, the truth is, man, I'm a very opinionated person, man. I'm pretty outspoken about things. Get on a lot of people's nerves even sometimes. But I'll put people to sleep with how much I'll talk about music, all right? So, and if you're watching this video, you might be the same way. You know, I don't know. What I want to talk to you guys today about is the how thankful I am for when I really got seriously into music. This is probably in the 90s is when this happened. This is probably, mid 90s is when I really got seriously into music. When I was in high school, I graduated in 94, and my junior year and senior year, so probably 93, 94, I started really playing music on my guitar. I started playing my dad's acoustic guitar a lot. He had an old Yamaha, and then he bought me my first guitar for my birthday one year. I'll never forget it. This is probably the year I graduated high school. He bought me him and my mom. They bought me it was a copy of a Les Paul. It wasn't a Les Paul. It was I forget the brand that it was. For some reason, I'm drawing a blank on the brand. It was not a brand you've probably heard of, like a Stetson or something, but it was basically a Les Paul look-alike. Didn't have the pickups that a Les Paul would have in it. But anyways, that was my first guitar. It was an electric guitar and stuff like that. So I've been doing music for a while. In the late 90s, after I graduated high school, I moved to Florida. I was in the Navy. I started a band. I did a bunch of acoustic. I did a bunch of solo stuff. When I was in Florida, that's when I actually went to my first recording studio. Okay, and that was pretty awesome. It was a fun experience. But before all that, I spent a lot of time just playing my acoustic guitar and songwriting, writing songs. And you gotta understand, this was the late 90s, okay? So there was no YouTube, all right? There was not YouTube. There was nothing like that out there. I didn't have internet. This was the mid to late 90s. There wasn't an internet like today, okay? And I remember, buying a 4-track at the music store, all right? And it was a little Tascam, right? It was a little Tascam 4-track. It was probably about this big or so. And I remember, setting at my desk and recording demos with my acoustic guitar and thinking they were really cool, And I went to the mall, and I went to Walden Books at the mall. We had a bookstore there called Walden Books. And I bought a book, right? And it was a book of music labels, right? It was basically how to get signed as an independent, artist and stuff, right? Because my dream was to get signed by a label, maybe an independent label, and to make it with music, right? I didn't want to necessarily make it big with music. I just wanted to get paid to play music. I wanted to get paid to write my music. I wanted to make records, play music, and that's what I did for a living. That's what I wanted to do, man. Now, was I good at it? That's the question. Was I good at singing? Was I good at writing songs? Was I good at playing guitar or any other instrument? No, I wasn't. I wasn't very good at it. But I loved it, right? I absolutely loved it. And you know what else was more important than that? And this is the heart of today's video. This is what I want to talk about. What was more important than that is when I was in that phase of my life, and this is before I went to a recording studio for the first time. This is before I got my first band together, before any of that stuff. What was more important than that was there was no YouTube at my fingertips where I could just instantly get online and immediately be faced with like thousands of videos from just like local nobodies who are not famous also. They also are not celebrities. They're just people playing guitar in their bedrooms or in their basements, and they're like 1,000 times better than me. Like, they are 1,000 times better at singing than me. They are 1,000 times better at songwriting than me. They are 1,000 times better at playing guitar than I am. I could not imagine, coming into music today and being faced with that. I didn't have to be faced with that, I was only exposed to the musicians around me, right? And, that's a much smaller sample size. It's much easier to feel like you're making progress. It's much easier to feel like you have a chance of making it in the world of music or whatever, It's very easy to feel like you're doing something original, What you're doing is unique. It's your thing, right? It's your unique, original thing that you're doing. That's how I felt. Even though I might not have been very good, I also felt like I was very artistic. I felt like I was doing my own original thing. I felt like the lyrics I were writing, they were influenced by other people, but also they were my thing. Like they had a lot of me in them. Like the influences weren't worn on my sleeve, I didn't feel like, I was doing my own thing. I was being an artist, not a perfect artist, not the best artist, just like a unique, interesting artist. And I think at that time, it was very easy for anybody to feel like they were doing something cool and they were excited about what they were doing, right? They weren't constantly being, inadvertently compared to a bunch of other people, right? Now I feel like, kind of like in contrast now, I go on YouTube and I see people who are just like guys like me, just hanging out or whatever, but like they're really good. Like wow, you are so good at finger picking. Or wow, you are such a great singer. Holy smokes, I cannot believe this is the dude sitting in his basement playing acoustic guitar and like an amazing singer, right? An amazing singer. And it's a lot of that, it's a lot of that. And I think like for me, so for me, what happened was, I told you, I went to Walden Books. I'll come back to today's. I'm going to come back to today's landscape, but I'm kind of going out of order here, but I'm just giving it to you as I'm thinking about it. I told you I'd go to Walden Books. I get these like books, independent labels, and it would have like all their addresses for all these independent labels all over the place. And reading those books, I learned like that the music capitals of the world were like Nashville and Los Angeles and New York City, right? These were the three music hubs of the world, right? And then you had like some satellite music hubs that would pop up sometimes, like Seattle or like Athens. You'd have these pop up sometimes, but those three were the big hubs of music, right? In fact, I had a plan that when I got out of the Navy, I was actually going to move to Los Angeles, to be at one of those hubs for music. I ended up not doing that. I ended up getting married and moving to Rhode Island instead. But that was my original plan. I was going to be moving to Los Angeles. Anyways, the point is, I didn't have all these I don't want to call it a mirror because you're not really looking in a mirror. I didn't have this thing where let's say I'm trying to cover a song. Like back in the 90s, if I was trying to cover a song, I would just put the CD on or put the cassette tape on, right? And I'd listen to the song over and over and over, and I'd kind of work it out on my guitar, and then I'd turn the CD off, and I needed a couple days of not hearing the actual CD and just trying to make it my own thing on the guitar, right? And that's how I would do cover songs, and I still do them like that to this day. But the point is, at no point when I was trying to do a cover song back then did I ever run off to YouTube, type in the name of the song, and put acoustic cover after it, and pull up 100 different people doing acoustic versions of the song, many of them who are far more skilled than I am, right? I don't know how that would have went down if I would have been able to do that back in the 90s. I don't think it would have went very well. I think it might have discouraged me, to be honest with you. I think it might have discouraged me. It might have made me want to give up. You know, like, clearly I'm not talented. I know what talent looks like. I'm looking at it on YouTube. That's not me, man. So, I mean, I must be on the wrong path. You know, it might have been something like that, you know. So, anyways, the point is, there was a chance to be delusional, all right, is what I'm saying. Like, there was many people in the 90s that were far better than me at everything, but it didn't matter because I wasn't constantly exposed to them. So it allowed me as an artist to continue to grow, to continue to get, you know, grow in my own way, my own unique way, and continue to build delusion, really. Delusion, like self-confidence, right? It continued to make me more and more confident. So I was going to Walden Books, getting a book of music labels, making little demos on my 4-track, which were horrible, you know, and sending those demo tapes to these independent labels. And in my mind, I was thinking, yeah, man, you know, I'm hoping one of these labels get back to me and I can get signed on one of these labels. That would be awesome, you know? Just trying to make my dream happen, you know what I mean? And this is before I was ever in a band. This was before I ever recorded at a music label or at a music studio or anything like that. And what happened was none of those labels ever got back to me. Of course they didn't, man, because I wasn't very good. But they never did. Now, even though they didn't get back to me, in my mind, it hurt my feelings a little bit, right? That they didn't get back to me. But I didn't have like a YouTube in front of me or an internet in front of me, like, you know, confirming the fact that I am not as good as all these other people. I didn't have that. All I had was local musicians around me to compare myself to. So it was very easy for me to get to a place where it was like, well, maybe that tape got lost in the mail, you know? And then after a while, you kind of get to this place where you're like, well, I'm sure it didn't get lost in the mail to all these different labels. So obviously they don't get what I'm doing, man. I'm doing something different that they don't get. They don't get it, dude. I'm doing something different. I'm on my own vibe, okay? I got my own deal going on, all right? They don't get it yet. They don't get it. They're going to see, though, man. You wait. You just wait. They're going to see it eventually, but they don't get it right now. It's very easy to get in that mindset. It's very easy to get in that mindset, for me at least. You know, maybe some people would get discouraged by no labels getting back to them, and they would get discouraged and they'd be like, oh man, I must suck. Oh well, you know, maybe. That wasn't me though. It was very easy for me to maybe think for a minute they don't think I'm very good, but it was very easy for me to see the positive, like, oh dude, they just don't get it. I'm actually awesome, but nobody gets it. That was me, right? I had that delusional kind of personality where I felt like what I was doing was the awesome stuff and nobody's getting it, man. I'm the artist who's doing something awesome and no one gets it. Nobody gets it, right? Was it delusional? Yeah, it was delusional. But it allowed me to become a better artist because I continued to grow in my own way. I wasn't trying to just imitate everybody else. I was doing something that I thought was cool that I got, and nobody else could get it. Nobody else was getting it, man. Like I was ahead of my time, you know what I'm saying? I was ahead of the time. I'm ahead of the curve or whatever, you know? Like I got such crazy, eccentric, like under the radar, underground tastes. Nobody gets it yet, man. Nobody gets it yet, man. This is the underground shit right here, right? That's how I felt, you know? And that's how it went, you know? And so eventually I got mad because I felt like nobody was getting it, right? And then here's another thing. I was trying out for bands back then. I was going around, you know, this is back in the day at music stores. At music stores, you'd go to music stores, there'd be like a cork board somewhere. And all you guys who go to music stores know what I'm talking about. There'd be a cork board somewhere. People would put like flyers, wanted drummer, wanted singer, you know, wanted bass player, whatever. And there'd be like a bunch of little tags at the bottom of the flyer where you could rip off the little phone number. I was going there. I was getting numbers, trying to become a singer for bands, a guitar player for bands. Everybody I tried out for, I got rejected. Nobody wanted me to be their singer, okay? I was not a great singer at all, and I'm still not a great singer. I'm an all right singer, you know? But I'm 49 years old saying I'm an all right singer. Imagine what I was like when I was like 22, okay? I was worse. But I didn't think I was bad. I thought I was cool. I thought I was cool, and I thought I was unique. Interesting, right? So I couldn't get any bands to bring me on as a singer. You know, I'd try out for these bands. They'd never call me back. I'd call them and say, "Hey man, I was just checking in, man. What's up?" "Oh yeah, sorry, dude. Yeah, we're gonna go with somebody else." You know, they just wouldn't call me back. That's how it is. You know, they're not gonna call you back if they don't want to deal with you. So, but I wasn't taking no for an answer. I was calling them back and trying to figure it out. And it was, I was getting constantly rejected. So what happened was, no labels wanted to deal with my crappy, you know, music demos that I was doing. No bands wanted to bring me on as a singer. And so I was like, okay, you know what, man? Nobody gets what I'm trying to do. Here's what I'm going to do, man. I'm going to start my own band. I'm going to start my own band. That way I can't get rejected from my own band. I can't get kicked out from my own band. So that's what I did, man. And I started my own band. And I put my own flyer up at the music stores, you know, wanted drummer, wanted bass player, you know, singer-songwriter, looking for drummer, starting band, whatever. And then that's how I started my first band like that. It was born from the fact that I was rejected by everybody else, and I had to do my own thing to start, you know, getting people, you know, to care about what I was doing. I had to create it. Now, for me to create my own band like that, you guys, you got to understand something. It takes a certain level of confidence in yourself to want to put a band together around your stuff. I was writing original music, okay? And I felt like my original music was good enough to have a band around it. I felt like it was good enough to send demos in to independent labels, man. I thought I was good. I thought I was cool, man. And just nobody else was getting it, right? It was too different for everybody else. They weren't getting it. And I had that confidence, man. I had that confidence in what I was doing, all right? But what I'm saying is, like, some of that confidence, it came from this, like, bubble that I was in. Like, I was in this bubble where I was really only exposed to other musicians in my area. But yes, I was exposed to all the professional musicians that I heard on the radio, the stuff I could buy at the stuff I could buy at the music store, or not the music store, but yeah, the music store, like the CD place, like, you know, what are some, I can't even remember any names of music stores right now. Whatever, you guys know the music store names. Best Buy, they used to have, like, man, I remember when Best Buy's whole middle section was full of CDs, okay? Now, I don't even think they have CDs at Best Buy anymore. But, anyways, yeah, so, like, I was sure, I was influenced by professionals, you know, people like Pearl Jam, Nirvana, you know, all these bands from the 90s, I was influenced by that. But it didn't matter because, like, man, you know what? Those guys were professionals. They were professionals. I'm not a professional. You know, I'm still, you know, making it. I don't have $1 million studios behind me recording all this stuff. If I did have $1 million studios behind me recording all this awesome stuff, then I would sound like that too. You know what I mean? It was easy to get in that mindset is what I'm saying, right? It was easy to say, well, look, dude, I'm just the guy in, like, Pensacola, Florida, or I'm just the guy in Springfield, Ohio, you know, recording this in my basement, okay? That's not the same as being in, like, $1 million studio recording a, you know, $1 million record or whatever. So there was some of that going on where you're like, yeah, well, I don't have all those awesome tools and equipment, or I could sound like that too. There was some of that going on. And then, of course, there was the part going on where, like, I just loved doing it. I just loved music. And man, I loved playing shows. When I put a band together, oh my goodness. When I finally put a band together and, you know, I actually had a band and we were playing my songs, Oh my goodness. You might as well thought it was Christmas Day for a 5-year-old or something. I was stoked, man. I was stoked to be playing in a band around town. I was stoked to be like playing with other bands around town. And man, I felt like I was finally part of the scene. I was finally part of it, man. I was doing it. I was so excited, man. And there was like a difference between the local music scene and the pro music scene. There was a difference, right? There was a difference. And so I fit in finally. I finally felt like I fit in. My days of rejection were over. And I figured out, man, you know what, man? I don't even need these independent labels to pull me on, okay? I can do it all myself. In fact, I bet you I could record a record at a studio, man. So I started looking in the phone book and I figured out there was recording studios in the phone book. I called one up and I realized, dude, I don't have to be on a music label to go to a recording studio. All I have to do is have some money to pay them and they will let me record a professional record. So that's what I did, man. It was like 1997 and I recorded at my first recording studio. It was called Moonra Records and it was in Pensacola, Florida. And I recorded that in 1997. I forget how many songs I recorded. Maybe, you know what? I have that cassette tape. Maybe I'll digitize it and put it up here for you guys to hear. It's funny, man. Like I was very young. I was probably about 20 years old, maybe 21 when I recorded that. It was the first time ever recording in the music studio, and I was like very young. And I can tell you, I listened to it not that long ago, and it was hard to listen to. It wasn't very good, I'll be honest with you. It's not very good. But you know what? Back then, I thought it was very good. I thought it was awesome. I was very proud of myself to go to the studio and record that. And I booked 3 hours in the studio. I think it was like $100 an hour. I booked 3 hours. It was just an acoustic recording, a bunch of just acoustic recordings of my songs. And it was like $300. So that's what I did, man. But here's the thing, and this is the point of all this story that I'm telling you. It just seems to me that we live in this time now where like instantly see, I know the confidence that I built back then and the way that I came up in music, a lot of it was built, I'm going to be honest, it was built on delusion, There was people way, way better than me in the 90s. There was people that were so much better than me. But it didn't matter because, I was excited about what I was doing. And, I could just, cancel it all out in my mind. It didn't matter if people were better than me. It didn't matter if people were better at singing than me. It didn't matter if people were better at playing guitar than me. It didn't matter if people were better than me at anything, man. I had something to say in my songs, man. And I wanted them out there for people, man. And I was super excited about it. And I had this unique ability back then to always find artists that I like, that I thought were like, dude, I love this artist, but I don't feel like they're doing anything I couldn't do. You know what I mean? I'd always find the artist that I felt like I could sing as good as that guy. I know I can sing as good as that guy. I mean, that was part of the thing why I love Bob Dylan, because Bob Dylan didn't come across to me like some kind of amazing singer. Well, I wasn't an amazing singer either, so I liked Bob Dylan because if that guy can be successful and he's not some kind of amazing singer, then hey, I can be successful. I'm not an amazing singer. And I could give you tons of examples like that of bands and folk singers and stuff that I thought were amazing, but they weren't like the best guitar players or the best singers or whatever, Like one of my favorite Bruce Springsteen records is Nebraska, right? Nebraska was recorded on a 4-track in a hotel room. I loved it. I was like, this is perfect. This is what I love, So anyways, the point is, back then I feel like it was easier to not feel so self-conscious about not being good. It was easier to kind of delude yourself into thinking maybe you were better than you really were. And the reason why it was easier is because you didn't have so much invalidation. You know what I'm saying? Like before, like I said, if I wanted to learn how to play a song, I remember this is many years later, right? And I got better, right? I know I'm an okay singer. I'm not a great singer. I'm a mediocre singer, right? I can hold a tune. I have a unique voice. I can hold a tune, and that's kind of where I'm at. I know I'm an okay rhythm guitar player. Like I can play rhythm guitar. I've been playing for a long time. I'm not a great lead guitar player. I'm okay. I'm mediocre. That's where I'm at, and I know myself. I know I'm a pretty damn good lyricist. I know I can write pretty cool lyrics. That's something I'm fairly good at. That's one of my strengths. And I feel like I write some pretty interesting arrangements when I actually try. A lot of times I don't. I go really simple on the songs, especially lately I do. But when I really want to, I can put some pretty interesting arrangements together on songs. And I know my strengths and weaknesses. I've been doing this for a long time. But I lost my train of thought, man. Okay, let me think. Where was I? I was talking about just the differences between then and now, and I think that, like, I guess for me, you know, I think it's so hard now for newer artists because, like, if I like the me of 18 or 17 when I was starting to play guitar, you know, I can see where it's very helpful to look at YouTube to figure out how other people are playing a song. I can see where that's helpful. But the problem is, although it's helpful to see how other people are doing it, it also can be a little bit weird because you're getting this, like, idea of how it's supposed to be done, right? And like, the way I used to learn cover songs was I would be playing the CD, the actual studio record, on my CD player, or if it was a cassette tape, on my cassette player, and I would just listen to it, and I'd try to, like, feel it out on my guitar to where it made sense to me. And I would just have to do it over and over and over. And, like, I remember, especially sometimes the lyrics, I wouldn't understand what the lyrics were, and it was so hard sometimes to figure out what they were actually saying. Hey, this was 90s grunge rock too, okay? 90s grunge rock, sometimes it was hard to understand some of those lyrics, okay? So, but I remember that's how I did my acoustic songs. So like, if you think about that method, there is nobody in front of you playing something who is a far better guitar player than you, and you're sitting there watching how they do it on guitar. There wasn't that. You were listening to the song on a CD player, and you were trying to feel it out, right? So it was good and bad, right? Because, like, if you watch a YouTube video, you see exactly how somebody's doing it, right? But also, you are kind of, like, subconsciously, like, comparing yourself to them. You're comparing yourself to them. Like, you're watching them play the song, so you're seeing how they do it. It gives you a clue. It's kind of like a shortcut. You don't have to listen to the song on the CD player and just, like, guess where they're at. Now you can actually see how someone else is doing it. So it's kind of a shortcut. So I can see why a lot of newer guitar players are doing it that way. But also, you're also, like, kind of like subconsciously comparing yourself to them a little bit. Like, if you watch them do it and it's, like, incredibly difficult, you're saying, I don't even know how to do what you're doing right now. Like, I would have to, like, you're kind of like, in your mind, you're kind of like thinking how long you need to practice before you can get good enough to even play that. And then, like, if they're really good at singing, then you start thinking, wow, I don't even know if I can sing that, dude. That's, like, outside of my ability to even sing that, you know? That's a conversation I never had in the 90s, okay? I never had conversations like that in the 90s. I never had to watch some guy on YouTube who I've never heard of playing a song from his basement. He's just as much of a nobody as me. The only difference is he's like 100 times better than me at playing this song, and he's 1,000 times better at singing than me. All right? That's the only difference. And you gotta wonder, if that was me, like, listening to that, would I have still sent those demo tapes off to the record labels back then? Would I have still formed those bands that I formed in the 90s? Would I have still walked around like I was doing something amazing that nobody else is getting? You guys just don't get it, man. I'm ahead of the curve, bro. I'm ahead of the curve. The world just hasn't discovered me yet. Would I have still felt that way? And what I'm telling you is I don't think so. I don't think so, because there's too much of like this mirror in front of me, like showing me how good everybody else is, and they all look just like me. They're all sitting in their garages playing guitar. They're all sitting in their bedrooms playing guitar. They're all sitting in their basements playing guitar just like me, only they sound way better than I do. It's like it's too much proof that you aren't very good. You know what I mean? It's too much. It's too much, right? So what happens is, I think that kind of like proof of concept or whatever, it kind of like breaks your delusion a little bit. And the problem is that delusion is necessary for development, man. You need to feel like you're better than you are. So you keep on working at it. You keep on working at it because you think what you're doing is important. The only artists who keep doing things over and over and over again is because they feel like what they're doing is important, right? That's how I was driven in my 20s. And in my 30s, I was driven by this idea that what I was doing was important and the world needed to hear it, man. Now, right, now I'm 49 and I'm more of like a hobbyist, man. And like, I still put records out. I put a record out last year called The Melody. Right? I'm going to put another record out this year. In fact, I got another record. I've already wrote a few songs for it. I got another record. It's called Can't Take a Compliment, right? That's the name of the record. It's going to be coming out hopefully this summer. I'm going to put it out. It's just going to be a simple little 5 to 7 song EP. It's going to be acoustic songs, okay? Nothing crazy. Just a batch of acoustic songs. And I'm excited to put it out, okay? I'm excited to put it out. But I'm not like ambitious about it, you know. I'm not going to be marketing it, you know, like I would have in the 90s. I won't be passing it out to everybody and their brother like I would have in the 90s. You know, I remember in the 90s recording a record, and I remember having like a dual cassette deck, little home stereo, and I would take the original studio recording and I would record a copy of it, a copy of it, a copy of it, 20, 30, 40 copies from the original studio recording, and I would have 40 cassette tapes, you know, with a little Xerox J card, a little Xerox J card that I made from like Xerox machine from where I worked, and you know, passing them out, man, passing them out. And I did that for my first band too. We had my first band was called RX. The CD we recorded was called After Hours Service. It was on a DSL, I think. It was like these little, I can't remember what they were called. DSR? DR? I can't remember what they were called. But they're about this big. Little kind of like, they aren't cassette tapes. They're like digital tapes. But RX recorded on that, and I still have that. And you know, so yeah, anyways, I'm getting off topic. The point is, I feel like, man, the 90s and the 80s, like in the 70s, back then, I wasn't around in the 70s, but in my time, I'll just say the 90s, in my time, coming up in music, it was a lot more conducive to like, kind of like this, it was a better, you know what, it was like a better, what do you call it, for eggs? Incubator. It was a better music incubator. It was a better music incubator, at least for me, because you were exposed to so many local musicians who were all like a gazillion times better than you, right? And I think that being exposed to so many musicians that are a gazillion times better than you, playing the same songs that you're trying to learn how to play, and they're all like so much better than you at it, that can be pretty demoralizing, and I didn't have to face that back then. So it was a better incubator for me because I got to maybe be a little delusional and feel like I was awesome. And probably I felt like I was more awesome than I was. And by the time I was old enough and YouTube came around, and by the time YouTube came around, and by the time I was on YouTube being exposed to other people like that, I had already been in several bands. I was already a little bit more confident in myself. I was more confident in what I was as an artist and who I was and things of that nature, so it didn't affect me as bad. But I do feel like when you're first getting started now dealing with YouTube and online, the whole online thing, I mean, I don't know. So why do I say all this? It's kind of like this invalidation mirror or something, you know what I mean? It's like, I want to learn how to play this song. Let me see how other people are playing this song. You go to YouTube, you type in the song, type in acoustic cover, and you pull up like 100 different acoustic covers of this song. And the first thing you think is like, wow, this is really tread on territory. A lot of people have covered this song. So right off the bat, you're thinking, I guess I'm not the first person who thought this was a good idea. This isn't really too original. I guess 1 million people have already covered this song. That's the first thing you think. And then the second thing, you start watching a few of the covers and you start like, you don't mean to, right? You don't mean to do it, but you start comparing yourself to other people. You start thinking, I think it's a guitar player thing. Guitar players and singers, they listen to someone else play, they listen to someone else sing, and they kind of like are comparing themselves to them a little bit, just subconsciously. They're not trying to, right? But subconsciously, you're kind of thinking, huh, that's so interesting how they sing. Could I do that, what they're doing? Is that how I sing? You know, am I better than them? Do I have a better control over my vocal range than they do? Like, where do I measure up on the scale with that singer singing that song, right? You don't really mean to do that. I think comparison is the thief of joy. I think Theodore Roosevelt said that. Comparison is the thief of joy, and I 100% agree. But I think just subconsciously you kind of do. You kind of compare yourself to these other people. And, you know, sometimes you'll look at cover songs on YouTube and like you'll find some that like, oh, you're like, yeah, okay, this is a reasonable performance here. I can sing as good as this guy. I can play as good as this guy. I can do that. I got it. I can do what this guy's doing. I think I'll take that and I'll kind of put my own spin on it, you know? And sometimes you can do that, but a lot of times what YouTube puts in front of you is like the best of the best, right? You look for an acoustic cover song of this song or an acoustic cover song of that song. You get slammed with like 100 videos of people doing these professional quality, you know, versions of these songs. And I've been figuring out lately, I've been watching these Wings of Pegasus videos where he talks about like, you know, people just doing like cover songs in like their living room and in their kitchen and stuff. But it looks like they're just singing in their kitchen or whatever. But really, they are like auto-tuning the whole thing. It's not even real. It's like fake. It's a fake. So of course it sounds completely perfect, right? But then you got like big dumb animals like me thinking that, you know, they're just like 100,000 times better than me. Like, why do I even try? And now it's different now, right? For me, it's different now because I know I don't have an ambition to be a professional musician. I know that ambition is not with me anymore. I don't feel that way about music anymore. I love music. I love music. But I don't feel like I have a desire to like record a record and I must get it out to everybody in the world. Everybody must hear this record that I have made. It's so important to me that everybody hears this record. I have a message that everybody needs to hear. I don't have that in me anymore. You know, and that's probably a story for another video. But I guess like to circle it back around to what I was talking about, I just think it's such a weird time. I can even see why some like fledgling artists, fledgling musicians, I could see even why they want to use like AI and stuff because they feel inadequate. They're going to feel inadequate. You know, it's like, wow, there's a guy playing guitar in his like basement and he's like doing these perfect pentatonic scales and It's like, what the heck? Dude, I suck so bad at like guitar playing, you know what I mean? I can't even be on the same scale. Forget it. You know what? I'm just going to do like AI. I'm going to go over to like Suno or something. I'm going to do like AI, you know, recordings. Because I can do this. I can like prompt the AI and I'll get something that sounds professional to me, right? You know, and that's sad to me. That's really sad to me because the stuff that you think sounds professional on Suno or whatever AI generation music thing that you're using, what you got to understand is it's completely derivative, right? It is completely derivative to all this other stuff that's gone before, right? The only way for music to move forward in a different direction, something different, something unique, something that might have influences of stuff from before, but it's something different, right? The only way that happens is like fledgling musicians to be completely delusional, not as good as they think they are, but just going for it anyway because they got something they need the whole world to hear, right? And that's, the first time I went to the studio, they told me, they said, Cam, you sound like Bob Dylan on crack, dude. And I was like, I thought that it was like an insult, But that's what they thought. When they heard me playing those songs, they thought I sounded like Bob Dylan on crack, And all these years later, I could look back at it and I could say, hey, they were actually complimenting me, They were saying, this dude is doing something unique, all right? It is a unique kind of thing. And what I'm saying right now is the fledgling musicians out there, the fledgling artists, you don't get that unique thing unless you spend time alone without watching 100 other people cover a song, but just spend time just listening to music and trying to figure out how to cover songs without watching other people cover them. Just figure it out on your own from the studio recording, listening to it, and growing a strong delusion in your mind that you are better than you probably are. You have something the world needs to hear, and it's like nobody gets it, right? You need that, man. Look, that feeling that nobody gets it, I cannot tell you. I've recorded countless. I don't know. I recorded 12 original albums for Suicide 7, my solo project. That doesn't count all the bands that I took to studios, all the shows I've played over the years. That doesn't count my new project, Cassette Decks and Coliseums. I think I got 4 records I've recorded for Cassette Decks and Coliseums, original music, Now some of those are in studios, some of those, Cassette Decks and Coliseums hasn't been in the studio. I've just recorded those on cassette decks or my H1 Zoom or whatever. They've been very stripped down stuff. But the point is, I've wrote so many songs and recorded so much music and played so many shows, all on the back of this strong delusion that I am better than I really am, okay? I needed that strong delusion that I thought what I was doing was important, all right? I needed to believe that what I was doing was amazing. It kept the dream alive for me for so long. And, yes, eventually I walked away from the dream of playing music for a living. I did. Eventually I did. But I didn't walk away from it because I thought I wasn't good enough. I walked away from it because my son was born and I realized, dude, I want to be there for my kids, man. I don't want to be to play music, and I know this because I played a lot of music. To play music, you got to be out all the time, man. If you're playing in a band that's serious, you're out every weekend. Every weekend you're out. You're either networking or you're playing shows every single weekend. And man, that is a hard thing. I got story after story I could tell you about that. But I didn't. My priorities were shifting, and that's why I kind of moved it to hobby status. It was probably one of the saddest, hardest things I've ever done in my life, man, to give up on that dream of, man, pretty much my entire 20s I spent chasing that dream. Half of my 30s I spent chasing that dream, and it was hard to walk away from that, man, but it was the right decision because I felt the shift in me, you know what I mean? And the best way I can describe that shift is no longer do I feel like I have something to say that I need the whole world to hear. I don't, that's not something I need anymore. So it was time for me to, my dream, it wasn't my dream anymore. So it was time for me to move on. But for those 15 years, it was my dream. And part of that dream was fueled on delusion, okay? Delusion of thinking I was better and more important than I actually was. And what I'm saying is, the way I was able to cultivate that delusion was because I didn't have a YouTube in my face showing me how everyone else was way, way better than me all the time. I didn't have that. I didn't have an AI at my fingertips, so I could just like prompt out a little thing and it would spit something out that was like way better than I could ever play. I didn't have any of that, man. I didn't have any of that. It was a lot of nights alone playing my guitar until my fingers bled, writing lyric after lyric after lyric on pages, trying to like understand how words work together and like trying to understand why I liked certain songs and certain lyrics and what makes a song a hit to me or whatever. Just all these like questions I would ask, and it just came from like spending a lot of time alone and thinking about it. And you might think, well, Cam, it never amounted to anything anyway. You know, you ended up just kind of giving up on your dream and stuff like that. So who cares what you think about it, right? And yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But I can tell you something. I had a hell of a time. I had a hell of a time playing local music in multiple states, and it was some of the best times of my life. And it kind of helped define who I was as a person, and it still does kind of define who I am as a person. I'll never feel like I'm not a musician. Even now, I'm recording music mostly for myself, you know, and the few people who listen to it, I don't feel the need that the world needs to hear it. But I don't think I'll ever stop recording music. I think I'll always be writing songs until I can't write songs anymore. I think I'll be doing this until I die. And the thing about it is, I don't know that I would be the artist I am today without that strong delusion early on. So I guess, just to wrap this up, because I'm rambling on, I would just tell you, man, if you're out there right now and you're watching this video and you know you're like feeling discouraged by how everybody seems better than you on YouTube and you just want to give up, or you want to run off to your friendly neighborhood AI to help you write songs or whatever, I would just tell you, man, turn the AI off, turn YouTube off, go buy yourself a boombox and burn a CD of the song you want to learn how to play, and just sit in a room and listen to it and try to bang it out on your acoustic guitar. Don't worry if you're in the wrong chords or not. Don't worry about it. Just play it by ear and see if you can make it sound like something close to what that sounds like, and bang it out and see how it goes, man. And once you got the chord progressions worked out, you know, turn the CD off and spend a couple days just trying to make it your own kind of thing. You know, write the lyrics out by hand, and just kind of like spend a couple days making it your own thing, man. That is how you become an artist, right? That is how you become something unique. You gotta diminish the influence. You know what I mean? You gotta diminish the noise. At some point, you gotta diminish the noise, man. And I just think that, like with YouTube, it's not always healthy, man. It's not always healthy to get so much like, I don't even know what you call it, a mirror. It feels like a mirror. Like you want to learn how to play this song, so you go to YouTube, you find like 100 other people who learn how to play this song, and you're watching cover after cover after cover. This is how I do it. Like I'll like compare this person's cover to this person's cover to this person's cover, and sometimes, man, it's intimidating because you're just like, holy crap, dude, this song might be too hard for me to play this. I might have to, you know, like recently I was covering this Coheed and Cambria song, and it was called The Flood, right? And I love this song, man. I love the new Coheed and Cambria stuff. You know, I need to do a video about the new Coheed and Cambria stuff. This Vaxis trilogy that Coheed and Cambria put out, oh my goodness, it is amazing. It is absolutely fantastic. Just fantastic. That whole trilogy is it's fantastic. All three of those records are amazing. But the third one, they just put out Vaxis 3, and one of the songs in there, The Flood, it is fantastic. And I wanted to cover it, and it's funny, so I did my usual, go to YouTube and see like how everyone else is approaching this song, right? And it's funny because like with that song, and Coheed and Cambria is one of those bands where like, they got a few hits that like everybody covers, but then they got a bunch of songs that nobody even covers, right? And The Flood was one of those songs where like the only people covering The Flood were guitar players, where like they'd play the song and then they'd play their guitar to the song and they'd hit all the licks, all the lead licks, all the fills, they'd hit all of them, but they weren't singing, right? They weren't singing, they were just hitting all those licks, and they were playing guitar, which is great, but that's not what I was going to be doing. I was going to be converting that song to an acoustic song, and I'm not as good of a guitar player as Claudio Sanchez from Coheed and Cambria, and he never covered that song acoustic. I haven't seen him do any acoustic versions of The Flood, right? So, you know, it was very much like I had to turn all those cover songs off and just sit with the actual song. I had the song on my phone, right? And I would play the song in my garage, and I'd sit in my garage with the lyrics and the song, and I would just try to like work it out on my acoustic guitar, and that's how I worked out The Flood. And like I knew I was working out like this kind of simplified version of the song. It wasn't nearly as complex. And like the whole intro part for The Flood, it has this like, it works in threes, like like there's this whole intro part, and I was gonna do it, but then I was like, dude, I can't play this. I'm gonna have to spend like a week like learning how to play this intro before I even bother like doing this song. And like when I was more ambitious with music, I would have done it. I would have been like, hey man, I gotta learn the intro, you know? But I'm not ambitious enough to do that anymore. I'm just like, you know what? This is for fun, dude. I'm just gonna jump right. I'm gonna like kind of cheese the intro a little bit, and I'm just gonna like jump right into it. And I think it came out pretty good. I think it came out pretty good. It's a very simplified acoustic, you know, cover of The Flood. Sanchez is such a crazy singer. His voice gets so high. You know, it's tough for me to sing that high, and so I did the best I could. I had fun doing it, you know, but just to kind of come back to the point, I had fun doing it, getting away from what everybody else was doing, just sitting with the actual song, without the videos, without the go-bys, without all the stuff, without the 100 different interpretations of it, none of that. Let me just sit in my garage with the actual song and start writing down how I might be able to do it with my acoustic guitar, and trying to figure out, you know. And like for me, that's a way better process for approaching a cover song. And I just like sometimes, you know, I just feel as a guitar player and as a singer, I'll watch some of these covers on YouTube and I will feel very inadequate. Like I will feel very much like, wow, dude, why do I even try? Like, why do I even try, dude? I suck. I suck as a singer. I suck as a guitar player. Why am I even doing this anymore? Like, I will think that, right? But then I just get out of my own head, because it's like, I know that that's a YouTube deal. You know, it's a YouTube deal, man. None of that matters, because I know for a fact that when you turn off YouTube and you turn off all this crap and you just sit with your guitar in your garage or in your basement or in your bedroom, and you're not thinking about how good other people are and all this other stuff, you can just like be alone with the song you're trying to play or the song you're trying to write, and like, you know, it becomes your thing. It becomes your thing, and it's awesome, and you're having fun, right? It's not about like, oh, did I hit that note with my vocal range, or oh man, did I do that right on the guitar? It's not about that. It's not about that, man. It's just about having fun and doing your own interpretation, right? I kind of look at it like, you know, man, you got a Van Gogh painting right in front of you, and then you got a blank canvas over here, and you're an artist, and you're like, hey, let me just like do my own version of Van Gogh. I'm not going to worry about how anyone else interpreted Van Gogh's work here. I'm just going to do my own like kind of version of that. And it's not going to look like that, but people are going to know like what I'm doing. It's going to be like some weird like garage rock ratchet version of that Van Gogh painting. And it's going to be fun, and I'm going to have fun doing it, and it's going to be cool, man. And I guess I see I'm at 54 minutes now. I've spent the last 50 more minutes trying to just tell you to stop taking yourself so seriously. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Turn YouTube off. Have fun with the music, all right? Just put on the CD player, bang it out on your acoustic guitar, and have fun, and don't worry about who's better than you at anything. Just Have fun. Treat it, you're incubating, right? You are literally growing as an artist every day. You just do it your way and don't worry about what other people are doing. Every day you do that, you grow as an artist, you get better as an artist. You become the new conversation for music tomorrow because you're not so busy trying to imitate the conversation of music from yesterday. That's all I got. You guys have an amazing time. I'll see you in the next video. Hey, leave me a comment if this resonated with you. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Yeah, that's all I got, man. Be good out there. Peace now.